I thought I'd finally escaped. When I boarded that plane to Europe, I told myself the nightmare was buried in the desert just like my parents. But darkness. Darkness doesn't stay buried, it follows the scent of fear. The first week abroad was silent, almost peaceful. I found this small room in a quiet hotel near the coast. It was simple white walls, clean sheets, and the faint, reassuring hum of city life outside. For the first time in months, I actually slept with the lights off. I let myself believe it was over. Then, on the seventh night, it started again. It began as a whisper, soft, almost imperceptible, like sand sliding across stone. At first, I told myself it was just the wind whistling through the old building, but then a chill ran down my spine as I realized the window was closed, sealed tight. The sound wasn't coming from outside, it was coming from the mirror. There was this tall, antique mirror on the wall beside my bed, the kind you instinctively avoid looking into late at night. And from its glassy, dark surface came that same dry whisper I'd heard in the ruins of Iraq. It called my name, Kerem. My heart hammered against my ribs. I lunged for the lamp, flooding the room with light. My reflection stared back, normal just me, pale and terrified. I took a shaky breath, trying to calm my racing pulse. It's just my mind playing tricks, I muttered, but I had to be sure. I had to look closer. I leaned toward the mirror, my breath fogging the glass. That's when the lamp flickered, just for a second, and in that split second of wavering light, behind my own reflection, I saw them, black silhouettes, long, thin, bending shapes, twisting, like smoke in a windless room. They were whispering in a language I didn't know, but somehow deep in my bones I understood. They were talking about me. That night, sleep was impossible. Every time my eyes closed, I saw flashes of sandstorms, my mother's hand reaching out from the dust, and the same intricate symbol we'd found carved into that cursed stone, the seal we broke when we took it from the desert. The next morning, I threw everything into my suitcase. I had to get out. As I checked out, the woman at the front desk gave me a polite, practiced smile. "You're leaving early, Mr. Karam?" she asked, her tone just a little too curious. I just nodded, not trusting my voice. Just couldn't sleep. She paused, her smile faltering for a moment. She leaned forward slightly, lowering her voice. "Yeah. Most guests in that room can't. We've been trying to replace that mirror for months." My blood ran cold. I grabbed my bags and didn't look back. I took the next train out of the city, desperate to put as much distance as possible between me and that hotel. But it didn't matter. The reflection followed me everywhere, in the smudged glass of the train windows, the polished steel of the doors, the dark displays in shop fronts as the train sped by. In every reflection, the figures were there, and they were getting closer. Sometimes they stood just behind my shoulder. Sometimes they were in my place, my own reflection gone, replaced by their shadowy forms. That's when the horrifying truth finally hit me. This isn't about the ruins anymore. The curse didn't start in the desert, not really. It started with us. The moment we looked into that seal and broke it, we didn't just find something, we unleashed it. And now I don't think it can ever be closed again. It's inside the reflection, it's inside me, and I'm so scared of what happens when it finally decides to step out. It's been 2 weeks since Kerem disappeared. The police in Vienna said he checked into a small riverside hostel and never checked out. His belongings were found neatly folded on the bed: passport, phone, and that little black notebook he always carried. But the strangest thing wasn't what he left behind. It was what came after. On the night of the 14th day, his sister Elif received a voice message from Kerem's number. At first it was just static. Then a voice emerged, broken and distant, trembling. "Elif, don't look for me." The sound warped, as if the phone was being held underwater. And behind his voice, you could hear something else, a soft, rhythmic whispering, almost like a chant. Then a sudden thud and silence. Elif tried to call back, but the number was no longer active. The next morning, she opened Kerem's notebook. Inside were pages filled with strange, looping symbols, the same markings found on an ancient stone from Iraq, and one sentence written over. And over again, the seal wasn't he meant to be seen. Days later, Elif began to dream of him. She saw Kerem standing at the edge of a vast desert under a sky the color of blood. In these dreams, he would whisper to her, "Don't follow the voice, Elif, don't answer it." But one night she did. Her phone rang at exactly 3:07 a.m., an unknown number. The same crackling static filled the line. And then a woman's voice whispering in Turkish, "The gate is open again." Elif froze. In that instant, the lights in her room flickered. The window glass rippled like water, and for a split second she saw her brother's reflection in it, his eyes hollow, his lips moving silently. She screamed, the neighbors came running, but the room was empty. Her phone lay on the floor, the call still active. But on the other end, only one phrase repeated, mechanical and echoing, in a voice that was no longer Kerem's. "The seal is broken." That was the last anyone heard from Elif. And they say that sometimes when the wind blows across the sands in the old ruins of Iraq, you can still hear two voices, a man and a woman, whispering in the dark. Their echoes are carried through the centuries, just waiting for someone else to listen. They called it the Forgotten Temple. No maps recorded its location. No satellite could find it. Yet somehow the wind always carried whispers from its direction, faint echoes that lured the curious, the reckless, and the desperate. 10 years after Kerem and Elif vanished, a new expedition was formed, funded by a private university in Istanbul. Their goal was simple: to locate the lost ruins of Al-Karak, an ancient Sumerian site believed to hold a relic known as the Stone of Echoes. No one on the team mentioned the disappearances. No one dared to. Among them was Dr. Rami Aksoy, a young archaeologist who'd grown up hearing the legend of Kerem's family. He had a copy of Kerem's old notebook, the same one found buried in the sand by a shepherd, sealed in a rusted tin box. The last few pages were smudged with dirt and time, but one sentence was still clear: "If you find this, don't dig beneath the third pillar." They arrived at the site just before dusk. The air was heavy, thick with dust and the scent of a rain that never came. The ruins stood like broken teeth, half swallowed by the earth. Rami walked directly to the third pillar. He hesitated, his fingers tracing the markings carved into the stone. They were the same looping symbols from Kerem's notes, symbols that seemed to shift when you weren't looking directly at them. His translation app couldn't identify them. It just displayed one word, echo. Then the ground trembled, a low hum filled the air, like 1,000 voices breathing in perfect unison. The team's lights flickered, their cameras shut off. Someone screamed in the sudden darkness. When the dust settled, there was a hole in the ground, perfectly circular, descending into absolute blackness. Rami leaned over the edge and called out. No response, only an echo. His own voice returning, but slower, distorted. It repeated his words out of sync, as if something down there was learning to speak. He lowered a rope and climbed down. The air grew colder with every meter. On the chamber walls, he saw ancient drawings, figures bowing before a massive stone seal, half buried in the floor, bleeding a faint light from its cracks. And then, on the ground, he found it, Kerem's pendant. It was still warm. He froze as a whisper filled the chamber. It wasn't one voice, but two. A man and a woman, their tones overlapping, soft yet urgent. "You shouldn't have come back." The seal pulsed, the light grew stronger, a beautiful golden glow, until Rami realized it wasn't light at all. It was movement. Shadows were swirling inside the cracks, pressing outward, beginning to form shapes. He scrambled to climb back up. But the rope was gone. Something was pulling it from above, something tall and thin, with arms that were far too long and a face that shimmered like heat haze on glass. Behind it, hundreds more shifted in the dark, whispering in a single, endless breath. The seal was never meant to be broken. Outside, the remaining crew heard Rami's screams, muffled and distant, and then only silence. When they looked back toward the pit, the sand had completely filled it in again. The temple was gone. All that remained was the notebook, half buried in the dust. But the last page now bore a new line, one no one remembered writing. It read, "We are home." And somewhere, deep beneath the ruins, the echoes continued, patient, whispering, and waiting for the next voice to answer their call.